Breaking the gray.
It's the wonderful world of technology.
It is. We're back, though. We're back.
And you sound amazing. You sound great. So we were discussing that you've made your way closer to London, but you're not there yet. You're still in America.
That's right. I like to do small hops, just a little hop across the pond. I don't like that long hop over from the West Coast. So yeah, I'm on the East Coast now, making my way over slowly.
That's great. And I bet you the sun's out because the sun follows you wherever you go.
Yeah, it's a little bit grey, but we won't talk about that. It's all good.
Okay,
sunny
good.
in my heart.
Good. Well, we're again, season 3. We're tackling the body. We're focused with our incredible specialists out there and all these amazing biohackers and doctors and physicians and everyone that's kind of telling us all these great things about the body. Who do we have today, Sarah? I'm excited.
Today I want to welcome Dr. Tim Jackson, Dr. Tim to his friends, I hope. And I'm very pleased to have Dr. Tim on because, you know, we talk a lot about biohacking and the things that you do, and we've got a lot of information out there. But, you know, one of the things we haven't talked so much is, you know, what order you have to do it in. And I know this is something that a lot of people are asking because it's a bit of information overload sometimes, but how can you do it in the most effective way? So welcome, Dr. Tim. It's so fabulous to finally have you on and talk to you. I know we've had a brief chat, but apart from that, this is kind of our first real connection. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's fabulous to be here with you guys. I got some new information I'm about to drop on the Rebel Scientist podcast. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
That's exactly what we like to hear, an exclusive. Where are you calling from today?
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
I'm not like, where's Waldo like you are. I'm more stay in one place kind of guy.
That's it. Okay, you're nice and stable. Yeah, I know. I kind of am a bit of an accidental nomad, actually. But it's working out well. Maybe let's start just with a little bit of your background and kind of how you got into this whole kind of biohacking scene. That would be interesting to hear.
Yeah, so, my undergrad is in health science with a minor in chemistry. I was going to go to traditional medical school originally, and I did a lot of preceptorships, the Wake Forest School of Medicine, and basically I figured out that, all the exercise and nutrition stuff I was interested in, the residents said, you're not going to learn any of that in medical school. Just get a ticket to play the game. Just get a doctorate in something in healthcare. Doesn't really matter what it is. I mean, unless you want to be a surgeon. And so that prompted me or pushed me a little bit down this pathway. But then also I had a surgery my senior year in undergrad where they broke my lower jaw and brought it up and back. And they broke my upper jaw as well and attempted to widen it. The surgery didn't correct any of the TMJ issues, and it took a lot of things that I had from subclinical to clinical. And so then I had to figure out how to heal myself. And the surgeon tried to, put it on me like, oh, well, all my patients heal well, so it's you. And it wasn't me. He took 8.5 hours to do the surgery. It should have only taken 3. So I don't know if he went to Mexico or what, but that'll help us segue into what I want to talk about today in terms of the order of doing things and how a lot of the biohacks people try, they don't get results from. I'm not saying this is always the reason, but I have a major reason why they don't work.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And this is what we want to hear because, there is a lot of information and a lot of people with their expertise and specialist subject. But yeah, how do you know, if you're putting the cart before the horse? What do you now have worked out a process for that? Presumably you had to work it out to get yourself better.
Yeah. And it's something that, I'm constantly updating. So if you listen to interviews I did 8 years ago, some of the information may be outdated. But I tell my patients, what I tell you now, I may tell you something different a year from now because I'm constantly evolving. But, some things will remain true. But one thing that the body must have, and this must be balanced before anything else works, and that is your jaw alignment and the width of your upper jaw. And so I'm working with the the business partner of the guy who wrote this book, Gasp, Dr. Michael Gelb. I'm working with his business partner, Dr. Lane Martin, on a device that helps to bring the lower jaw down and forward. So first of all, I got to tell everyone to stop worrying about your teeth. Okay, that's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, but the teeth don't matter if your airway is not optimized. And so there's a concept taught in dental school called centric relations. Basically, it means you want to bring the lower jaw up and back. And that's what they do with my surgery. And that's what created more problems, because when you bring the upper jaw or lower jaw up and back, you decrease the space for the tongue. And so you never get deep sleep because every time you're choking basically over 100 times a night. And so you never get the deep restorative sleep. Plus, if your cells don't have oxygen, you can wear red light therapy helmets and do cryotherapy and molecular hydrogen, but your body must have optimal oxygen levels first. And so this is a journey I've been on the past year. I just got fitted for my device to bring my lower jaw down and forward, and then we're going to move on to expanding the width of the maxilla. And so right now, people think that if your teeth are straight and they're white, that they're healthy. Not true. And this has far-reaching implications from sexual dysfunction to heart attacks to autoimmune issues, autonomic nervous system imbalances, so things like POTS, neuroimmune conditions such as lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. And so we must optimize the airway first, and it starts in children.
Right. Do you know, of all the things that you were going to talk about, I didn't think we'd be talking about this, but it's very interesting because a lot of people are talking to me about different things. And I was just in Austin, and there was a guy there who wanted to stick balloons up my nose and inflate them and expand all this area. And unfortunately, we ran out of time because I was up for it, because I was thinking, this part of your face to have that open airway. Yeah, that is something that's pretty important. And I'd also just been to a biological dentist, and he told me I had to do this thing to remove cavitations. However, in order to do that, I had to more or less remortgage my house. So I've kind of put that on hold because I want to find out, okay, how important are these things?
So cavitations, I've been down that road too. I've had ozone injections into my jaw. Cavitations can be very important, but I've seen people who get the surgery done, and it knocks them on their butt for 3 to 4 months. And most patients I deal with, they can't afford to be out
Exactly,
of work
yeah.
or away from their family for that long. But the cavitations, I've seen them return in some people. So then you've just paid a lot of money for a surgery, and it's going to return, and you put your body under tremendous stress. I think what's a lot more important is the optimal width of the upper jaw is 40 to 42 millimeters. Most people are at about 36 to 38.
How do you measure that, Dr. Tim?
So I send people to a dentist I'm working with in Georgia, but basically you're measuring from here to here, and I don't have the specific landmarks because I haven't done it yet. But when you mentioned sinuses, so the floor of your sinuses is the roof of your mouth. And so if the maxilla is not wide enough, it affects your paranasal sinuses. And so people are going and taping their mouths at night, but they're mouth breathers, and they're trying to stop that. But if you don't first establish nasal patency, meaning the nasal cavities, the nostrils are dilated enough, then you're going to cause a lot of damage. And so, if you can't get oxygen through your mouth and then you can't breathe through your nose, you gotta, and that kind of segues into mycotoxins. Well, what the heck does mycotoxins have to do with your jaw? Well, it has more to do with your sinuses, but they colonize the sinuses fairly frequently. And, your pituitary is basically at the top of your sinuses. So these mycotoxins are using your pituitary as a punching bag. And so the jaw alignment stuff plays a major role because your sinuses will never drain appropriately if your maxilla is not in the right place and your lower jaw is not in place. And the other thing I wanted to mention, and then I'll be quiet, is that when the jaw is out of alignment, especially mainly the lower jaw, it impinges on the trigeminal nerve that innervates the face like this. Well, that trigeminal nerve feeds into the same nucleus as the vagus nerve. And so your autonomic nervous system can never be balanced no matter how much heart rate variability training you do. And so we're hoping to do a study, baseline heart rate variability measurement, and then 2 months after using this device.
Right. But maybe you can explain a little bit what the device is. Is it something that you sit in your mouth? Or?
So there's an upper and a lower part, and they're essentially connected by very strong rubber bands. I mean, it's a little more complicated than that. But you want to wear the lower part all the time. So even during the day, because that's going to help optimize your oxygen intake. The upper part you can attach just at night. And so it'll help, with restorative sleep. I've already seen pictures of patients who were only in the device for 8 weeks, and they literally look 10 years younger because they were never getting deep sleep before. If you're stressed out, like if you have a stressful life event, it's hard to sleep that night, right? So just imagine if your body thinks it's choking over 100 times per night. And so the device, it's you don't have to mortgage your house for it. They take a 3D intraoral scan. I had more pictures taken of my mouth in the past few weeks than I have in the past 10 years. And it allows them to customize, the lab customizes the device to the alignment of your teeth. And, so you start with that device. And then depending on the age of the person and their health status, then you move on to expanding the upper jaw.
Right. So this is because we have we have sleep as one of our fundamentals. And I think, that's what we had at the beginning. But really what you're saying is in order to get that sleep, this would come first. First, align your jaw, open the cavities so you can actually breathe before you do the mouth taping. Because we did actually have a podcast where we had Christian Weitzel actually talking to us about mouth taping. And we did try that. But what you're saying is that this needs to come first.
Yeah, because, I did it and I woke up and my tape, I don't know where it went, somewhere in the covers, because, I was already choking, and then I went and taped my only source of oxygen, or my main source of oxygen. But I think the mouth taping can be good. I mean, the principle's right, but the jaw alignment has to be first, and you have to have good nasal patency. And so, Dr. Lane Martin is the guy who's training me on all this stuff, and he's training healthcare providers, not just dentists, but across the spectrum, because traditional dentists, he's tried to teach them, and they're stuck on this orthodontic treatment where they, bring your jaw up and back, and that's absolutely malpractice. The example he gives is if a dermatologist went to inject some filler on your nasolabial folds, but there was a melanoma there, and he just ignored it, but he injected anyways. That's essentially what orthodontists are doing, traditional orthodontists. And so, that's absolute malpractice. There's no question about it.
Right.
Okay. Can I ask the question? We sort of breezed by, and you're saying it's oculation. That was what you're talking about. You needing to get in the Sarah.
What's that? The oxygenation.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, what is that process? It sounds like it's painful and it takes a very long time.
To get
the jaw again.
To get the jaw alignment right.
What? No, you were saying you had to get a process called oculation. Is that what it was called?
No, I don't think so, Russ.
Oh, what did you say you needed to get that was going to knock you out for 3 to 4 months?
Oh, the cavitation surgery.
Cavitation. Yeah, what is cavitation surgery?
So cavitation is basically a pocket of infection in your jaw. Pathogens set up shop there because it's not a very well perfused area. You don't get a lot of blood flow there. So your immune cells have trouble getting there. And so you can go in and, try and remove the cavitation. They put you under partial anesthesia. But anytime you have surgery on your jaw, it's very invasive and it's extremely barbaric.
It's when you've had your wisdom teeth, because I've had all my wisdom teeth out, and so the biological dentist wanted to do this scan, and he said most people who've had their wisdom teeth out have these cavitations. It's like dead bone in effect, and it's very graphic. He wants to cut it open, scrape out the dead bone with some horrible spoon-like instrument, take your blood, spin the plasma, fill it up with plasma, cover it with ozone, and then heal it up.
I get it.
It's
Yeah.
a lot of money, and it's very, very invasive. However, people are starting to look at this, because otherwise you are getting toxins just leaking into your body.
Right.
But it's just, okay, yeah, it's a very brutal thing to do. And I was just wondering kind of where on the wellness scale is that? Because you're right, Dr. Tim, I was thinking, okay, I really need to allocate 3 months for this to heal.
I mean, I've seen it definitely help people, but I've also seen people who were very in a good place in terms of their health prior to the surgery, and then they are just like wiped out for at least 5 to 6 months. And so, yeah, you do get toxins leaking into your body, but if you're getting more oxygenation, then you're going to be better able to fight off infections. And like Lyme spirochetes, Babesia, Bartonella, they're the ones setting up shop in there. So if you're not getting deep sleep, your immune system's going to be off.
Yeah.
So I think, if you work upstream, you can never go wrong that way.
Yeah. Well, it's music to my ears, because I've been trying to kind of work out, how important is it, and do we need it? I mean, there's been a lot of, there was a movie, Russ, called The Root Cause, where they kind of put these like cavitations down to so much stuff. Actually, they pulled it from Netflix because they said it was misinformation, because some of the claims weren't backed. But like I say, I have a biological dentist in Harley Street, and he absolutely says he's seen people recover from all kinds of neurological issues by having this surgery. But I'm sort of thinking, where about in a kind of health journey does that come? And if there's something you can do to certainly mitigate it or make your chances of healing better, then I'm all for that. Let's try and do the simplest, easiest, most practical thing first before major surgery.
I have a device. It's a lumen photon machine, and I don't have any association with the company. But there's a guy in North Carolina who travels back and forth to South Carolina to do the cavitox scans where they look for cavitations. And if I had heard this and he didn't have the proof, I wouldn't have believed it. But I think 4 months of using the lumen photon machine, 30 minutes twice a day, was able to get rid of cavitations because it stimulates blood flow to that area.
And it's presumably some kind of light therapy.
Yes, and you can, so depending on how many pads, how much surface area you want to cover, my pad is a rectangle, and I strap it around my lower jaw, but you can put it on any area for healing.
We always come back to the light therapy, don't we?
It always comes back to light therapy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah always wins every time.
Yeah.
Dr. Tim, I am curious. I suffer constantly. I've had broken nose and major surgery. I snore. I mouth breathe at night. I know I do. I wake up. But I've been really focused since starting this podcast with Sarah of really getting better sleep. And I have a darker room. I wear an eye mask now. I get great sleep at night. But I do look at my Oura ring, and I'm up 3 or 4 times a night in these little spurts. And I'm curious, without having any devices, and without knowing much, and the tape didn't work for me there. I just ripped it off because I couldn't breathe at night. What can we do to get started? Like, what are some of the things we can do to get started to help us breathe better at night? Is it better to be elevated with your head? What are some things we can do?
Yeah, so incline bed therapy, that's going to help your lymphatic system. So I know I'm speaking Sarah's language. She's nodding.
Yep.
But it's going to start to drain. And that'll help it out, by elevating the head of your bed about 6 inches. So that definitely helps. And then air doctor. So, or if you have another air filter that's been shown to filter down to, I think it's 0.09 microns, then, that'll also help in terms of your breathing. And then doing nasal rinses, nasal flushes. You can even nebulize something like citrus oil drops, and that has antimicrobial properties. And a lot of times mold spores and other pathogens colonize the nose. And so that's one thing you can do to start breathing better. And then, Dr. Martin and Gelb have trained 25 clinics nationwide, and they're training more all the time. You'll be able to go somewhere and get a scan. It's only a couple $100 for the scan, and that allows them to custom make the device. And he tells people if you just want to do their device, that's fine. But most people want to take it further and address more the root cause. And so the condyles, which are here, they remodel. So when you bring the jaw down and forward, you don't have to wear the device forever, but then you're going to need to expand the upper jaw. So it sounds like a long, arduous journey, but it's actually not that expensive compared to cavitation surgery. And it's something that if you're getting benefit from the things you're doing, you're going to get exponentially more benefits with improved oxygenation and sleep.
Yeah. So when you say it's not, I mean, how long do you think until you start seeing results from
some people, it only takes 2 or 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you're going to save so many marriages with the removal of snoring, jumping around. Like my wife is like, get out of the bed. Like you jump around and hop around like you're on fire. I'm like, I think I'm dreaming crazy things. It's just that I can't breathe. Breathe, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like that, I mean, is a huge marital discord stimulus. People, and then if you think about the next day, your interactions with people, including your loved ones, you're not going to be in a good mood if you didn't get good sleep. You're going to be irritable. And I think we've kind of normalized not getting good sleep, but, we should sleep throughout the night.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely have that as kind of we've had it in all our seasons as the number one thing that you can do for your health, but it's not as simple as just saying go to bed early. Obviously these are the things that you need to do, breathing exercise, the mouth taping, and now you're saying in order to do it, you can really improve it with this device. We used to do a 7-day challenge. Maybe we should bring that back, Russ, because I kind of like taking on this one because like I say, this is something that lately people have been talking to me about a lot. And maybe we'll even get the guy on from Austin who does the sinus things with the balloons, because I think you're right. If you focus on your breathing and oxygenation, this is the fundamental, really. Sleep is a byproduct of having good oxygenation.
Right.
So
absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah. Absolutely. We'll definitely put all of this in our show notes, the link to the book, and hopefully once you get the device, then you'll be doing some of your own research, will you, Dr. Tim, on that and how it
works? So, I mean, we're coordinating things. Dr. Gelb and Dr. Martin, they practice in Manhattan on Park Avenue. So they're like, running around with like a chicken with a head chopped off. I mean, they're just crazy busy. So, we're going to be doing more research and more training on this, but I'm happy to come back and talk about my experiences. How it improved my health and everything. I just did a home sleep test last night to get a baseline reading. We'll see, and you'll be able to see on your Oura ring, improvements.
Yeah. I don't know, Sarah, about you, but I averaged like low 80s, where I used to, when I first got the Oura ring, I was in the 60s and sometimes 50s. I mean, I really did not get good sleep. And, it's funny, like there are times, especially like in the working world, where you're like, I didn't sleep at all last night. I worked so hard. Like we actually reward like those that don't get sleep, right? We're like, wow, that person worked so hard, they didn't sleep at all. It's like, no, I'd rather you got 8 hours or 7 hours, and then you're fresh in the morning for the day, right?
If you look at the businesses and companies that are massively successful, like Google, etc., they have couches for you to lay down and take a nap. They have game rooms. They recognize, your brain can only absorb about 60 minutes of new information before it needs a break to assimilate it. So they recognize that, there's an institute called the High Performance Institute. I think Dave Asprey's on the board, but they look and study the most high achieving CEOs and entrepreneurs throughout the world. And they don't push, and beat themselves into the ground. They listen to their body, they press, then they back off. Back off.
Yeah. And like you're saying, simple techniques, simple things you can do, taking a nap and all these things. But, you know, it sounds like this is something where this does take a bit of effort. Like you're going to have to wear a device in your mouth. This isn't kind of one of our easiest tasks, but really taking control of that and actually changing your physiology to kind of maximize your oxygenation. You know, that's kind of cool. I'm into that idea. But yeah, you're right, this is kind of a little bit next level, because you really do have to own that a bit and take responsibility.
And so the goal, yeah, is to start with children. And, you know, because if we fix it then, you know, you save hundreds of thousands of dollars later on. And so, you know, if you're a parent listening and your child is in braces, make sure you find an orthodontist who understands the alignment of the jaw is more important than the straightness of the teeth. And then you can straighten the teeth after the jaw's aligned.
But how would you find one of those? Do you think you need to look for biological dentists? How would you find someone who's got that information?
So there's this book, and I don't make any money off the book, but there's also a book called 6 Foot Tiger, 3 Foot Cage, and it's about the real estate for the tongue. So in those books, they list several dentists throughout the United States. You may have to drive or fly, but it'll be well worth it. And, you know, once you're fitted, I mean, you won't need to go back for quite a while.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking to someone else about the shape of your teeth and how, you know, children, you know, we have, especially with a Western diet, you know, Weston A. Price did a lot of study on people's teeth and how it's changed, certainly from indigenous cultures who kind of eat a lot of animal fat to present cultures where the teeth are all crowded. And also someone said to me, you know, you see children sucking their thumb, that may be a response to try and push up that part of their jaw. So it's not this kind of Freudian oral fixation so much as actually the body trying to remediate against that.
Yeah, there's a biomedical anthropology lab in Paris, and this lady has studied, you know, skulls from several hundred years ago till, you know, 30 or 40 years ago. And now, today, most people are vertical growers. So people grow vertically. You need to grow vertically to a degree, but then you need to grow horizontally. And so, you know, there's a transgenerational component to this. A lot of it has to do with introducing crunchy, chewy foods. So you need to introduce those in order to have optimal maxillofacial development.
Right. Okay. So really, I mean, yeah, like everything, it really does need to start. Yeah, the sooner you start on this, you know, from a baby, the better head start you've got. We're just trying to catch up.
The good news is, though, it's never too late.
No, there's always some kind of hack you can do at any stage. It's just better to catch it as early as you can.
That's it.
I imagine too, like injuries are so devastating for these kinds of things. Like I just know I broke my nose in multiple places, and I mean the healing process was awful. The surgery was awful. But just a lifetime of problems of just being able to breathe. Like I really only have like one clear pathway. My right one's not very clear. Like I really can't breathe too much through it. But I mean, this is a straight nose versus my nose was over my eye and smashed him. And I think a lot of it was just, you know, even after like, you know, we can make the corrective changes now. But like, I guess after an injury, you really do have to make sure you're asking your doctor about the jaw as well, even with the nose and anything on your face, right? You really have to make sure that you're asking those questions about jaw alignment.
Yeah, and so, you know, the device that Dr. Gelb and Dr. Martin developed, they're not marketing as a medical device or to treat anything, because, you know, then you have to jump through all those political hoops. It's more of a performance enhancement. So it doesn't matter what you do. You're a politician. Our politicians definitely need this because they're not thinking clearly. But, you know, if you're a CEO or an entrepreneur, you want to perform better, you know, there's a graph in the 6 Foot Tiger, 3 Foot Cage book, shows a guy pushing a boulder uphill. And they said that's what your life is going to feel like until you fix your jaw alignment.
That's brilliant. All right, I'm going to get that book. Yeah.
Are there any tips that we can leave people to understand if their jaw is misaligned? Is there anything that they can do online? Any tests they can do to see, are they, outside of seeing that they don't sleep well, but anything they can do to understand their jaw alignment?
So if they snore, that's definitely a red flag. But you have to be careful. I learned asking people's spouse if they snore, because if they also snore, then their sleep's disrupted, so it may not be an accurate assessment. But do they snore? Do they have heartburn? And do they wake up in the night choking or gasping for air? And do you feel like, if you look at the people who are the best athletes in the world and the people we find the most attractive, the maxilla is wider than the mandible. If your maxilla is not, it's just like your shoulders to waist ratio. It should be a taper, right? That's, just subconscious.
So when you say that, is that like cheekbones to jaw? You're saying?
Yeah. So basically here, mine should be more in. It doesn't go in enough. And so we'll be expanding here, bringing this down and forward.
Yeah, mine kind of, well, especially as I've gained COVID weight, mine kind of expands out at the bottom now. And it's sort of blending into my neck.
But you've got a beard, Russ, so you just grow your beard out and
I'm going to blame that on COVID, that my jaw is kind of like, my weight gain kind of sits here. I've got big old jowls from the weight gain. But no, I think that's good to know.
Well, you bring up a good point. So, being overweight can definitely influence it, but there are just as many rail thin people who have this issue because, it's a structural issue. It's being overweight makes it worse, but it doesn't cause it.
Right.
Sure. It's another contributor to it, right? I think, we'll go to sleep. Sleep is important. Jaw alignment. These are all super helpful things. And this is an area that people just take it for granted. And I do agree. I've been working in the professional tech world for a long time, and the need for speed, the need for commitment, and people getting work done. The thing that suffers is you, and the thing that suffers the most is your sleep. And take care of yourself. I always tell my team, take care of yourself. Just it is not important enough for you to miss the sleep that you need, especially when you're in your 30s. People, 30-year-olds and 25-year-olds are just like, I bounce back great. I'm like, yeah, you do, but just wait till you turn 40 and 50. Like, bouncing back isn't something that happens. It takes you a while. So. And
your body's trying to compensate, so you may feel like you're bouncing back, but you only have so much organ reserves in your body, and then you start to deteriorate.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. That isn't what I thought we were going to talk about today, Dr. Tim, but that's been hugely helpful, even for me personally, because I was totally considering having this full-on surgery, and now I feel like I've got something that I can do first that's potentially going to, one, have the benefit, and maybe I won't even need the surgery, and two, if I do, I'm going to recover quicker.
Absolutely.
So that's totally great. And the book references also, I'm already Googling those.
Yeah, this is the first podcast interview I've talked about this stuff.
There you go. Well, we love that.
Great.
We love Rebel Scientist exclusives.
Let's promote this. Yeah, we'll promote this one. This is a really important. It's a really important topic and very personal to me too, because I struggle with this, and I think it's something that we just need to. We should really have you back, Dr. Tim, and talk about some of the advances you're making, and really dive in. I think it's an area that we should really spend time with, because it's important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool. We'll have you on again after you've done your trial. So
yeah, I want to blow up in the UK. I want to take Dr. Tim's show international. So fish and chips, here I come.
Okay. We'd be glad to have you and show you around. That would be fabulous too.
Awesome.
Breaking the gray.